Episode 1. The Girl Who Heard Voices. They called her mad. They called her a witch. But what if the truth was far greater? What if a teenage girl, born in obscurity, could rise from a tiny village to lead armies, crown kings, and alter the fate of a nation? This is not a myth. This is the story of Joan of Arc, the girl who defied everything history said was possible. The year was 1412. France was broken, humiliated by the English in the 100 Years' War. Villages burned, kings trembled. And in the quiet hamlet of Domrémy, a farmer's daughter named Jeanne d'Arc tended sheep, dreaming not of glory, but of peace. She couldn't read or write, yet from the age of 13, she began to hear what she described as divine voices, those of Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret, urging her to drive the English out of France and crown the true heir, Charles of Valois, as king. At first, she resisted. Who would believe her? She was a peasant girl in a world ruled by men, priests, and warriors. But the voices grew stronger, and so did her conviction. One day, she told her uncle, "I must be with the Dauphin. My lord wills it." The courage of that statement was beyond comprehension. She was 17 years old, setting out to find the heir to the throne of France. It took months of persistence. Local soldiers mocked her. Priests tested her faith. Yet her words carried a strange power, an unshakable confidence that felt divine. When she finally reached the court of Charles at Chinon, she was dressed in rough men's clothing and wore her hair short, shocking everyone. To test her, Charles disguised himself among his courtiers. Without hesitation, Joan walked straight to him, bowed, and said, "God give you life, gentle Dauphin." The room fell silent. Somehow she had known. What happened next defied all logic. A 17-year-old girl convinced hardened generals to give her command of an army. But Joan didn't just lead, she inspired. To soldiers drowning in defeat, she was hope made flesh. She rode at the front, carrying a white banner embroidered with the names of Jesus and Mary. Her courage was contagious. In April 1429, she led her first major campaign, the liberation of Orléans, a city under siege for 7 months. The English had mocked her as the Maid of the Lunatic Winds, but her arrival electrified the French forces. She charged into battle unarmed, urging men forward as arrows rained down. When struck in the shoulder by a longbow, she pulled the arrow out herself, returned to the front lines, and shouted, "Do not fear! The victory belongs to God." By dawn, Orléans was free. The victory changed everything. The myth of English invincibility shattered. France found its spirit again. But Joan's vision went further. Her divine mission, she said, was not just to win battles, but to crown the Dauphin as the rightful king. So she led her army through enemy territory, capturing city after city until she reached Reims. There, in July 1429, she stood beside Charles as he was crowned King of France. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "It is the will of God." In just a few months, a teenage girl had accomplished what generations of generals could not. She had restored France's faith in itself. Yet, even as the church bells rang and crowds rejoiced, shadows gathered. Her destiny, like a flame, was burning too bright. And flames have a way of consuming what they illuminate. Her greatest battle was yet to come. And this time, her enemy would not be across the battlefield. It would be the very men she fought to save. Episode 2. The Trial and the Fire. After the coronation at Reims, Joan's legend spread like wildfire. She was hailed as a living miracle, a divine warrior sent to save France. But in the halls of power, her rise terrified the nobility and the church. A peasant girl claiming to hear God was not just inspiring, it was dangerous. Despite her victories, politics began to turn against her. King Charles, cautious and fearful, hesitated to continue the campaign. Joan, frustrated, pressed for action. She led assaults on Paris, Compiègne, and other strongholds. But one fateful day in 1430, while defending Compiègne, she was thrown from her horse and captured by Burgundian soldiers, French allies of the English. The people expected their king to pay her ransom. He did nothing. Joan, the savior of France, was abandoned. She was sold to the English and taken to Rouen for trial. The charges were absurd: heresy, witchcraft, dressing as a man, defying the church. In truth, her trial was not about theology. It was about silencing a symbol that had become too powerful. Over months of interrogation by learned clerics, they tried to trap her with contradictions. But Joan, the uneducated peasant, answered them with intelligence, grace, and wit that left scholars speechless. When they asked if she was in God's grace, a question meant to destroy her, she replied, "If I am not, may God put me there, and if I am, may God keep me there." Even her accusers were stunned. The trial was a farce. The verdict was decided before it began. On May 30th, 1431, at just 19 years old, Joan was led to the marketplace of Rouen, where a wooden stake waited. She asked for a cross, and an English soldier, moved by her courage, fashioned one from 2 sticks and handed it to her. She kissed it, then looked to the sky and cried, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus!" The flames rose. The crowd wept. Even her enemies felt the weight of what they had done. A witness later said, "We burned a saint." But her death did not silence her. It immortalized her. 25 years later, the church retried her case and declared her innocent. In 1920, almost 5 centuries after her death, Joan of Arc was canonized as a saint. Her story is more than history. It's a testament to conviction, to listening to a calling even when the world mocks you for it. Joan of Arc proved that courage is not about strength or status. It's about faith in something greater than fear. If you find this video adding value to your life in any way, please take a moment and subscribe and like. And if you want to go further, write one word: value. It helps with the algorithm, so other people who need it can find it. It's free and a simple way to give back. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you.